Patreon Q&A number 103. I want to thank all 121 of my amazing patrons. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to support me the way that you have. And to everyone else listening, there's going to be spoilers for all the series I'm talking about, so tread careful. Beowolf asks, I'm going to go off your second question first. Do you think we might be getting some new Hero Association ranks soon? Tatsumaki and the others might be reprimanded with all of the destruction of the city, but Flash did a great job, and Suiko didn't do as good as I'd hoped. Tank Top Master once again flopped, unfortunately. Thanks again, man. Can't wait for my blast shirt to come in the mail. Hey, thank you for buying it, Beowolf. I really appreciate that. So, yes, I do think that we're probably going to get some new Hero Association rankings. At least I certainly hope so, because that is going to make things even more interesting than they already are. And I think that was one of the reasons why those dragons showed up. I mean, obviously multiple reasons, but it was to progress to the new rankings, which we obviously need now because we haven't gotten them in a while, and things have been, changed around a lot. We got some retirement with Bang, and then we got, the whole Nero Heroes and S-Class leaving them and everything. So I think this is probably what they'll look like. I don't see number 1 and number 2 changing, even though Tatsumaki did destroy the city, unless they straight up ban her or I don't know, boot her out of the S-Class, which seems unlikely at this point, considering they need all the help they can get, with the opposition of the Neo Heroes and everything. But Blast and Tatsumaki, they're going to stay the same. But I think Flashy Flash is going to take that big number 3 spot for sure. Like I said, Bang is retired now, and Flash just proved that he could solo a dragon. Again, this is the webcomic continuity. He hasn't really done that yet. This is the first time he actually did that, at least recorded to the Hero Association, I suppose. And then I guess Atomic will still stay at 4. Metal Knight will be pushed up to 5, I assume. And then this is just, my personal hoping, I suppose. But I think it would be cool if Drive Knight got pushed up to number 6 so that, him and Metal Knight are together, keeping that whole who's who thing going on. King will stay at number 7 because, 7 is a lucky number. Zombie Man maybe stays at 8. Maybe Pig God goes down to 9. And then maybe Genos gets to number 10. Because, that was his, the little goal that Saitama gave Genos, just to, give him something to do. So that would fulfill his goal of being okay, now I'm number 10. I'm in the top 10 of the S-Class. I can move on to the next thing. And then Watchdog Man, I guess, will be at 11. And then Tank Top, he'll be at number 12, I suppose. Maybe he'll move up. Maybe he'll take Pig God's spot. Maybe not. I don't know. And then Purry will be at the bottom still because he hasn't really progressed since the Monster Association arc. And then the A-Class, it might be Saitama taking over Amai Mask's, vacant number 1 A-Class spot, possibly, because he might get most of the credit for taking down G6 at this point. I mean, it remains to be seen if Saitama and the Hero Victims Association has completely left the Hero Association, although it's kind of implied. I don't know. We got to see where that storyline's going, but I think it might be cool if Saitama, moves up from A-Class 13 all the way to number 1. And then I think the Disciples will stay where they are, and then Suiko will definitely be pushed up, I assume, maybe to number 5 in the A-Class or something like that. So for your first question, what will Genos' next upgrade look like? So maybe he will get some of the parts from G6. I mean, that will be part of the course as what he's been doing before. But if Genos is going to get more powerful, he is going to need whatever the organization is using, because Drive Knight obviously is way more powerful than Genos. So there is technology out there to progress Genos to a certified pretty much high dragon, I suppose. So either Kuseno has some stuff that he's holding back, or they're going to find a new energy source, or some kind of new material, akin to Vibranium from the MCU or something like that, to really bolster Genos to the next level. Kate Baldie asks, this is my first time doing a Patreon, so forgive me if my question isn't stated great, but will you using guides for both Saitama and Goku, as a lot don't, and they just use their assumptions? Thank you, Zane. I wish you the best of luck. So I will be taking the guides and the data books, I assume what you're talking about, into consideration. I mean, there's not much that, bolsters Saitama, and for Goku, it's already convoluted enough. So the Kanzenshus and stuff, whatever they say, I'll take it into consideration as much as I can, but I mainly want to go off of the feats that are on the page. That's the main thing here. Because, like I said, things get more convoluted than they already need to be. And the assumptions are the main thing that go off of these versus battles. It's you can only go so far until the individual has to use their own opinion as to, how to, make sense of all of this data and everything, I suppose. So, like I said originally, there's no right answer to this stuff. Everybody's going to have a different outcome, and everybody's going to get upset in their own way. The only thing I can really do is make it as entertaining as I can, I suppose. Crusader Deus Vult asks, Deus Vult, his I the Crusader Nene, man. I up my pledge to beat Dolphin Man. Hey, thank you, Crusader. I really appreciate that. is Max Power Tatsumaki versus Max Power Boros. Who wins and why Boros? I'm going to probably go back and make another video about this because I talked about that in my recap versus battle video. I mean, I want to see more from Tatsumaki from this arc before I can really, make a definitive answer on that. But right now, it seems like Boros would probably still defeat her. I mean, Meteoric Burst, probably. But like I said, released Boros, it would be way more competitive now, I suppose. I mean, she has feats that I suppose show that she could compete against somebody on that level. I mean, why not? She was able to somewhat compete with that God Beam. It's difficult to say what exactly happened in that sequence, but if she can, compete against something like that, I don't see why she wouldn't be able to take on somebody like released Boros at least, and not get completely dominated. Second question is Max Power Drive Knight versus Awakened Garo. Right now, it's way too early to say if Drive Knight could take down Awakened Garo because we don't know what his full power is. I mean, we can only speculate about it. Like I said, it's, maybe he could be above Dragon, considering that he's very likely to be the Mad Cyborg. Therefore, he's one of the final villains of the series, I assume. And also, he, based on the shogi pieces and the implications of all that stuff, he probably wasn't a max power against Neon, who he kind of low mid diffed, did very well against, mid low dragon, whatever you consider Neon. But with that level of power that we saw from Drive Knight in Chapter 118, would obviously get completely dominated by Awakened Garo. So right now, I don't know, but Awakened Garo for sure wins until we see more from Drive Knight. Derek asks, hey Shonen, so things are getting crazy in My Hero right now. In my opinion, it looks like the heroes are completely screwed. My question this week is, could Captain Celebrity make a difference? I feel like he could definitely tip the scales with his ridiculously OP quirk or possibly even hold off Gigantomachia. I agree, and I wish he did show up. I mean, it remains to be seen if he is as powerful currently in the timeline as he was back then when we saw him in Vigilantes. But if he is, he would definitely tip the scales for sure, and maybe he could even hold off Gigantomachia. I mean, right now, Gigantomachia is even stronger than what he was initially since he's done that transformation thing. But still, I mean, Captain Celebrity's feats are so awesome, and I think that he could fight against Gigantomachia one-on-one for sure. And I guess if he could fight against Gigantomachia, he could fight against Shigaraki, but, it would have to avoid getting decayed because not even his quirk would be able to avoid that, in my opinion. But yeah, for sure, he would be an equalizer here. Dino W asks, I want to know, what do you think wins in a matchup between Thor and Captain Marvel versus Thanos and Hela? So I think Thanos and Hela would definitely win. Thanos could probably defeat Thor and Captain Marvel by himself based off of his feats in Endgame. I mean, he did pretty well against, all three of the big three of the Avengers. And then, against Captain Marvel, I don't know, that was kind of plot intervention more or less, but still, I mean, could have defeated her. And then Hela, ridiculously powerful, up there with below Thanos tier, close to Thanos pretty much, maybe on the same level. Remains to be seen. We haven't seen Hela go against Stormbreaker Thor, of course, but I think Thanos and Hela are just the much more powerful duo here. Or maybe I'm not giving Captain Marvel enough credit, but I do think Thanos and Hela will win. Second question, what disaster level / hero ranking would you give Stormfront after watching Season 2, Episode 3 of The Boys? Yeah, she's pretty powerful. I mean, especially in The Boys world. It seems like she's like, I don't know, it's setting up for like a potential confrontation with Homelander, meaning that she's strong enough to somewhat fight against him competitively. Probably not, but better than most, I would say. But given her feats, she would be, I mean, it's hard to translate them into the One Punch Man world because obviously the One Punch Man world is amplified as where the Boys world is more of a grounded, realistic type of reality. But I would say she's minimum demon for sure. I mean, she has superhuman physicality and those lightning powers are pretty significant. She was like blowing up that apartment complex pretty easily. So, you transfer that to the One Punch Man world. I think you got a demon for sure on your hands. And then S-class, ranking by being a demon. FallingFireX asks, hello once again, Sean. I'm not sure how much you know about Godzilla. I'm positive that this has been asked before. I can't seem to remember. What threat level do you get Godzilla and or King Ghidorah if they existed in the One Punch Man world? So like I was just talking about with the Boys and Stormfront's feat, you would have to transfer him over to One Punch Man, just anime world, amplified feats. Godzilla, above Dragon probably. He took a nuke in the first movie and survived it, like face first nuke. in the beginning of the film, which I've gone over many times on my streams because of how extreme it is. And then I also went over his fight with King Ghidorah in the newer movie. And it was impressive, of course, but to me personally, he wasn't as impressive as I thought he would be. Not saying he's weak, of course, because he's not, but I don't know. It's difficult to say, like, what his durability would like. You know, could he take a punch from Saitama? Honestly, probably not. But like I said, it's difficult to say because it's more of a grounded, realistic take on things, and One Punch Man is not. So if you transferred him over, he would, you know, his fire ability, his size, his durability probably would be above Dragon, and King Ghidorah would probably be around there, I suppose. Free T-shirts asks, Yo, Shonen, I have a theory. I wanted to see if it holds any water in your opinions about Machine God Mirror. I believe that he is meant to replicate the powers of God bestows on both Psychos and Homeless Emperor. First off, his name is Machine God Mirror, which I interpret as a machine who is mirroring God's power. Second, where the energy balls were shooting, which is similar to the one shot by Homeless Emperor and Vaccine Man. This would, of course, mean that the association knows about him, which I don't think is a stretch. G5 was in the Monster Association for quite some time. They encountered Homeless Emperor, so if the theory about Drive Knight is true, then we know he's already collected data on Homeless Emperor. I think it's quite possible that the organization knows about God, and the mirror is meant to be some sort of test run, so what do you think? The theory any good? Unfortunately, no. Free T-shirts, I don't think this is true at all. None of this really lines up, in my opinion. Not trying to put you down, but it's just you have to also remember that the webcomic and the manga are two different continuities at this point, two different stories, and you're crossing them at this point. G5 was not in the webcomic, and he was not in the Monster Association in the webcomic, so all of that stuff is out of the window. Also, his name, Machine God Mirror, is pretty much going to be G6 in the manga, because G4 in the webcomic was Machine God Zimzamov or whatever, and that's just the name that one uses for the organization robots in the webcomic. I don't think it has anything to do with God, and there's no evidence to support that the organization knows about the existence of God. I mean, his energy, I think, is just meant to show that they have like more of an impressive form of like projectiles and weapons at this point. I don't think it really has anything to do with God, honestly. FrostGH asks, just want to say thank you for all the hard work you put into your videos and the community. I doubt my drive for all these series would nearly be the same longevity without your channel. Hey, thank you, FrostGH. I really appreciate that. My first question may be a bit more clear than I think, but Goketsu versus Elder Centipede, who gets the win? Super difficult to say because, you know, Elder Centipede, big powerhouse. We haven't seen the full potential of Goketsu, although it isn't implied. So, like, could Goketsu replicate the power of a Void or a Ripping Fist? You know, the combination attack between Bang and Bomb. Maybe, maybe not. Super hard to say. But, I mean, I want to say Goketsu could defeat him, maybe. But Elder Centipede's such a tank, has regeneration, you know, huge. So, I mean, I think this is like ultimately comes down to like personal opinion. I mean, just like with everything else, but this more so. Like Goketsu in theory could bust up Elder Centipede's face way worse than Metal Bat did. I mean, like, you know, replace Metal Bat in that sequence with Goketsu. It would obviously be way more significant of a beating and way more damage would be done, but would it be enough to take out Elder Centipede? And vice versa. Could Elder Centipede, like, catch Goketsu, cut him in half, or, you know, snatch him up or whatever? I don't know, but if I had to put my money on it, like if I had to bet, I'd probably bet on Goketsu, because why not? I really like him. Second question, who would win between Dirt Earthworm and Withered Sprout? Probably Dirt Earthworm, because I don't know if Withered Sprout's abilities, his ice powers, would be able to get beneath the surface to get to Dirt Earthworm. So that would probably play to Earthworm's advantage, you know, tunneling underground, and then also he could just drop, you know, like a huge dirt wall on Withered Sprout, and that would easily take him out. GardenShed asks, I read over the revisions for Chapter 130 and noticed that E-Iron was able to break Tatsumaki's barrier, but Black S wasn't able to. Got some of the questioning Black S's strength. Perhaps his punches are just demon level, and that's he's only a dragon because of extreme numbers. I find it difficult to believe that E-Iron has a dragon level attack. What's your general take on the meaning behind this? Is it more showing E-Iron's strength or Black S's weakness? I don't think you should really compare these two here. Also because these are new retcons, and I don't think one and Murata, I'm sure this was more Murata, was really taking into consideration the other feats that had to do with Tatsumaki's barrier. And I also don't think we should put too much on Tatsumaki's barrier as well, because she's kind of doing, you know, 18 things at once, and the barrier was only meant to like be strong enough to like, you know, protect from rubble and stuff like that, not earnest attacks from like, you know, demon level guys or whatever. And I also talk about Black S's individual strength in my How Powerful is Black S video, and I basically said that, you know, when when he's in his, separate forms, he probably is demon level at that point. But when he comes together, makes the big one, then he's probably a dragon. But apparently it is now canon that he can break through Tatsumaki's barrier, which I have no problems with, because like I said, the barrier, I don't think we should put too much on it. It's not like she was trying full force. Like, it's not the barrier that she puts around herself. It's just a vague version of that. Garret M asks, hey, Dark King Shonen, I have come to give my offerings to the $8 tier, so you won't sacrifice me. Thank you, Garret. I really appreciate that, bruh. My first question today is a weird versus battle that some people not think about. Zombie Man versus Metal Bat. Who do you think would win? Probably Metal Bat, because, it really ultimately comes down to how far Zombie Man would push him. Can Metal Bat take bullets from Zombie Man's, more powerful guns than typical ones, I suppose? Maybe, maybe not. Could he take his sword slashes? Probably. Hard to say if he would, push Metal Bat to getting, so pumped up. But if he did, Metal Bat would eventually get to the point of where he would just, smash Zombie Man with 1 or 2 strikes. Like, he could definitely get that powerful. And Zombie Man's regeneration does have, like, an exhaustion to it. So he would only get so far, and I think this is probably Metal Bat's fight to win. But it ultimately comes down to Metal Bat's durability against Zombie Man's arsenal, which is hard to say at this point. Second question is, do you think that one would continue the story if God doesn't take away everyone's powers and it follows Glasses or someone else? No, I don't think it will. I think the story is going to end with, it's going to start with Saitama, end with Saitama. If he does make another story, like a side series or something like that, I don't think he would follow Glasses. He'd probably follow like Fubuki or Garo or somebody like that. Glasses, his significance and importance, I don't think is that grand overall. I mean, he will have his time and place for sure, but I don't think he's that important as to where he would, like, have a side series devoted to him or something like that. Geruda asks, hey, Shona, do you think Dabi could crush many of the pro heroes if he could get over his weak constitution? Absolutely. I mean, he could crush a lot of the pro heroes right now. I mean, he's a pretty powerful glass cannon. But, I mean, he obviously he gasses out pretty fast, as we've seen many times in actually the both back-to-back arcs where he has some significant battles. But we have been seeing more of Dabi's abilities and more of his arsenal. But, I mean, like, even if he did overcome his weak constitution, he would still need to increase, like, his physicality. Like, that's another reason why Endeavor is so formidable, because he doesn't just rely on his Hellfire quirk. He's also, like, a beast. Like, he's, like super strong. Like, to the point of where it seems like he has a strength augmenting quirk. So if Dabi, took like a gear cycle the way that like Endeavor did and worked on like his fighting skills and stuff like that, then he would be even more of a threat. But right now, just his, cremation quirk would easily toast a lot of the pro heroes. They don't have durability like that. Kohler R asks, hey Shonen, G6 look crazy strong in the new webcomic chapter. What is the strongest cadre you think he could beat? Really difficult to say right now exactly how powerful G6 was, because, he was mainly just going against A-class heroes, and he was a dragon, so of course he's going to look very impressive. But considering he's the first dragon that we've officially seen from the organization, I'm going to assume that maybe he was low, mid at the most, definitely not high, because we're probably going to see like a G7, and he'll probably be a high dragon or something like that. If we are assuming that Eraman, Destro, and Drive Knight are like, or Eraman and Destro are probably high dragons or something like that, and then Drive Knight, most likely above Dragon, or at least I think so. So, given that, G6 could probably defeat Homeless Emperor, maybe be competitive against, like, Gums, Fear Ugly, guys like that, but once he starts getting to the stronger cadres, he'd probably get completely dominated. L asks, do you think one has another form to Garo before he becomes awakened, or as what we've seen in Chapter 129, the last of peak pre-woke Garo's forms take care? No, I do think we're probably going to see another form of Garo, because remember, when we left off on Chapter 129, the black cloth on Garo that it's like it started to become monstrified was creeping up his face. So we might see like more of the stuff overtaking his body. Like some of his face might be obscured by the cloth or something, and also his hair is going to become more horn-like, I assume, because if you go back to like the last couple chapters of the webcomic before Awaken Garo is revealed, Garo's hair is changed. Like it's more shaped like horns now, as to where it was in Chapter 129. It was more like Super Saiyan 2. But I think it's going to like change again, and then we're going to see like that is like the final pre-woke Garo And then when he fights, Golden S, that will be the last time we see him. Legandaryus asks, hey, Shona, what do you think would happen if Saitama knew all martial arts? It would pretty much be overkill at that point. If he did have martial arts, he would just be even more impressive and more dominant than he already is. Like, there would not even be anybody that could even step to him the way that Suiryu did or Garo. Like, he would just, easily counter them or easily outmaneuver them, or he would just have more gusto to the moves that he already does. Like, instead of just like his basic moveset, like serious punch, serious consecutive punches, he'd do some like crazy kicks or some crazy, like super techniques the way that Garo does, like the double hand palm thrust and stuff like that. But again, like, I mean, even without martial arts and pretty much knowing nothing, he's already God. So it would just be insult to injury, unless he encountered another person who was on his level, which he probably never will. Mick HSIII asks, been really loving the streams lately, bro. It's Hard Unk, man. Hey, what's up? Thank you for coming by the streams, bro. My question this week is more explaining my take I made on those streams. You said believe that Metalbat is going to be the one who reveals the organization and is the one behind the Neo heroes because of him witnessing Destro and Araman taking the bodies of the dead Neo leaders. I think this is Metalbat's arc because of this, similar to how the last arc featured Garo. One has a tendency to take things in clusters, and it's no coincidence Metalbat, Metal Knight, Drive Knight have such similar names. Metalbat's fighting spirit has some potential as Garo, so I think we were going to get some density of epic fights at the end of this arc. I don't think this is Metalbat's arc, and I would be surprised if we got a Metalbat-centric arc. And this especially isn't Metalbat's arc because it hasn't really focused on Metalbat that much. He's only had, 7 panels maybe less than that in this entire arc. The most significance I think he is going to get is, revealing that the organization is pulling the strings, and he will have some fights. For sure, he's probably even going to have maybe a whole chapter of him fighting or a part of a chapter with him fighting. He will have a major fight, and we will see maybe his biggest win for sure so far. But having this whole entire arc centered around him, or this being quote-unquote his arc, I don't think so. And his name is just Metalbat because of his bat. It's possible that Metal Knight made it or something, but I don't think it ties into Metal Knight or Drive Knight or anything like that. Mr.Awsome asks, so my first question is, out of hype of Season 2 of The Boys, who would win in a fight between Homelander and USJ All Might? The fight takes place at the USJ. So I've been talking about in this Q&A, it's hard to say like how the grounded, realistic take on superpowers would be transferred over to like anime world, like One Punch Man or My Hero. But Homelander seems like if he was put in the My Hero world, he would be just as powerful, if not even stronger than All Might, I suppose. So it would be a super competitive fight. But if we're going like feet for feet, like, comparing My Hero to The Boys and not guessing anything in between, USJ All Might would completely dominate Homelander. My second question is, how do you think Grabolante would stack up to the heteromorphic quirk users of My Hero? He would fit in right there because he's a tiger, which is, pretty powerful for even the My Hero world. And he seems like he would be maybe even one of the more powerful heteromorphic users and whatnot. I mean, granted, he was defeated by civilian Saitama, so he would only go so far. Like, he wouldn't be able to compete against one of the top 10 Billboard heroes or even the top 25. I mean, the top 25 would probably be competitive against him, but he wouldn't be too strong, but he wouldn't be weak by any means in the My Hero world. Mr. Toby 1018 asks, happy Saturday, homie. Hey, you too, Mr. Toby. Do you think that Saitama will continue getting downplayed once he's S-class? Downplayed as in by monsters, other heroes, citizens? Absolutely. I don't think that will ever change, even by the end of the series. I know that I've said before in videos that there is a possibility that everyone will realize how powerful he is, and that is true. That could happen, but there's so many ways that the series could end, and now I'm thinking that maybe he never is revealed to be the one above all. Like, maybe no one, maybe only a select few will know, but I don't think everyone will know. Therefore, if he does get to the S-class, which is even up in the air at this point, because maybe the Hero Association will be dissolved before he even gets a chance to go to the S-class, but even if he did, I still for sure think he would be downplayed. They would just call him like the new guy, and he shouldn't be in the S-class, and I could totally see that narrative being pushed. Second question, do you think that Genos will need, what do you think Genos will need to get significantly stronger? So besides just upgrades and that stuff, Genos needs to fight smarter. He needs to learn how to be a better fighter, have better fight IQ. I mean, he has made some progressions, but he's just way too reckless at this point. And aside from that, like I also said in this Q&A, he's going to need to get some new kind of technology that either Crusader is holding back or Crusader hasn't discovered yet, because obviously it exists. Drive Knight has it, and he's way more powerful than Genos, so he's going to need whatever Drive Knight has, or he's going to find some kind of new power source or some kind of new material or something like that. Nameless asks, hey Z, been a minute since I asked a question, but I promised to ask questions for people from the Twitch live streams. Here, since I don't use them, Fang Gripper asked for a disaster level 1 biscuit from Hunter x Hunter. Hope all's way. Hey, thank you, Nameless. So I checked out a couple of her fights on YouTube, and it seems like she's like a tiger or something. I mean, maybe when she goes to like her true form, you know, the big buff version, maybe she's like a high tiger at that point. But honestly, I really didn't see anything from her that showed that she was like definitive demon level. Of course, I could be wrong. I'm only going off of so much information, and I'm very limited with Hunter x Hunter. But it, you know, it just seems like, I guess a tiger, maybe high tiger for now. Natedawg asks, what's up, man? If Drive Knight told Genos the whole truth about him trying to take over the Hero Association back when he warned about Metal Knight in Season 1, I assume that Genos agrees to help Drive Knight because he promises that he will help Genos find the Mad Cyborg. So instead of Drive Knight being the only villain in the S-Class, Genos is also in on it. Maybe not realistic for Genos' character, let's just pretend. So if we're pretending that Genos is just going to turn heel here, the most significant thing that he could do to help Drive Knight is get Saitama's data and give it to him, which might actually happen, you know, because Kuseno might turn out to be a bad guy or something like that. Or I don't know. I don't think we should entirely trust Kuseno, as I talked about in previous videos. But anyway, he could get some information or data from Saitama and then give it to Drive Knight and then make Drive Knight insanely powerful. And then Drive Knight could also do the same for Genos as well. So that's one thing that could possibly happen from them teaming up and everything. I think that would be pretty interesting. Obamanewjordans asks, hello, Shadow. I hope you're doing well. Hey, thank you, Obama. I hope you are too. My first question this week is related to skill-based characters in One Punch Man, specifically if you could assign a disaster level to the skill of one character. Hiro Hanagaro is a demon, but he's able to defeat Metal Bat, so that does he have dragon level skill, and Bang does have above dragon level skill. How would you rate these characters based on that? So maybe Bang has above dragon level skill, maybe, but I just don't think because an individual character is as strong as like a high dragon or something necessarily means that their skill would be higher than that. I also think it goes into like, just because they have the physicality of like a high dragon, their skill is also high dragon as well. Like, look at it this way, like Beefcake. He's probably a high dragon, but he has the skill of like a demon or something. You know what I mean? So it's not always like a one-for-one trade-off with this type of stuff. But I think Garo, Hero Hunter, it would definitely be safe to say that he has dragon level skill, but I don't think it's always as common as you think it would be. Samurai asks, how's it going, Shonen? So as a continuation of my previous question, what would a fusion kind of Dragon Ball style of Dark Shine, Strength and Aura, Flashy Speed, Bang Martial Arts capability, and Abandonment, and Zombie Man healing be enough to take down All Might? And if not, what more would be required to finish the job? So I assume you're talking about Prime All Might here. What would be enough to finish the job is that you need to have somebody that would equal the strength that I personally see Prime All Might being. I know a lot of people have issues with that, and I personally don't care. But this fusion that you have right here is just not enough. You would have to keep fusing guys. So you have to throw like Tatsumaki in there, Blast in there, and then maybe it's enough. Maybe if you add Tatsumaki and Blast, possibly that would be enough to take down somebody on the level that I personally see Prime All Might being. As for my second question, I was wondering how the current arc of My Hero would change if Bakugo joined the villains way back when they offered him the invitation. So that's interesting. I mean, Bakugo, if he was a part of the League of Villains, I mean, they would be way more successful than they already have been, but they've already been super successful. So he would just aid them in that. But, I mean, honestly, not much would change because Bakugo's not going to die, obviously, so he has that to protect him. But also, I mean, they're going to win anyway. You know what I mean? Like, they're definitely going to win this arc, or at least as far as I see. So he would just essentially help them in that. And then maybe he would fight Izuku again, or I guess this would be a second time because they wouldn't have fought a second time if he did join them back then. And then maybe Izuku would defeat Bakugo if they were to fight one-on-one. like in the current war that's going on. So that would change, but in the end, I mean, Gigantomachia and Shigaraki would just clean up anyway. As he asks, back again, Shona, last week I asked you how about Saitama would fare against fate manipulation, and that got me thinking. You said in your response that there is no feat in JoJo equal to Saitama's feats, and while that may be true, there still are, in my opinion, about 12 characters in JoJo capable of defeating Saitama. I can give you a few spoiler-free examples. There is a stand in Part 5. Hey, you can give me all the spoilers. I've read all of JoJo a couple years ago. And watched it all. I'm very fuzzy on it, of course, but I do remember most of what happens that completely nullify any action to the point at which it never happened in the first place. There's a stand in Part 6 that functions as a supernatural black hole that can move at an infinite speed and accelerate time, so on and so forth. They don't necessarily have any truly destructive feats, but I don't think Saitama could beat them, which leads to my question, how exactly do you define a feat of power, especially when the powers are not particularly in physical form and nature? It's all subjective, and it ultimately comes down to the eye of the beholder, I suppose. Just because me or another YouTuber says that this character would defeat that character doesn't mean that it is gospel or set in stone. Anybody in the comments, or even you, Azzy, has just, your opinion holds just as much weight as ours does, because it's just an opinion in the end. We're all assuming things. We're never going to have a true answer to any of this stuff unless the two creators come together and then ultimately decide on what would happen, which will never happen. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it comes down, your question is, how do you define a feat of power? It's how you personally define it. If you think that the JoJo feats are powerful enough to take down somebody like Saitama, despite what he has shown, like I have supplied you in the previous Q&A, well, then that's your answer. And my answer is that I think that he can overcome that stuff because he is just so super powerful. And based on what we've seen on him doing in the spiritual world with like Phoenix Man and stuff, that stuff probably wouldn't affect him. But in the end, there's no way to know for sure. Simone Kamina asks, my first question is, do you think Saitama in the battle against Crablante and Moomin Rider have no human body resistance? I'm assuming that that English isn't your first language here, so don't worry. I'll try to figure out what you're saying here. So I assume that you're asking is that do Moomin Rider and regular, worker level Saitama have like a higher level of durability than most humans, considering how they did against Deep Sea King and Crablante? And I'm going to say, yeah, I mean, based off of the evidence that we have, I think that's fair to say. I mean, Moomin Rider, his saving grace is his durability and endurance. I mean, that's, like his highest attribute at this point. And then Saitama against Crablante. I mean, I guess Saitama, before, his training, had to have some kind of above average durability or strength or something. I mean, how else would he take those shots from Crablante and, rip his eye out with all of his organs and everything? Kind of conflicts with what Dr. Genus was talking about, how he had no potential or anything. But I guess it's fair to say that he did have some kind of potential somewhat, given those feats. Second question, do you think Saitama, Fubuki, and Psychos were studying in the same school? Maybe. I mean, we might even see Saitama like in an Easter egg or something when we get to the point of seeing Fubuki and Psycho's high school flashback, maybe. But at this point, there's no evidence to support that, I suppose, because we don't even really know if they all came from the same city. But one thing that we do know for sure is that Saitama and Moomin Rider went to the same middle school. Steven asks, Blue didn't say I killed the monster. He said the kaiju died. Like what? Of natural causes? Is Blue's mere presence poisonous or radioactive? It's foaming at the mouth, and it was not torn to pieces like all the other monsters he was wailing on. He couldn't tell if it was working. Then he kneels over and is certain someone backseat driving Blue, or is he more of a mascot than he realizes? No, Blue absolutely did kill the ill monster. He says the kaiju died, but I did it just barely. And it's not foam coming out of its mouth. To me, it looks like it's just the poison acid stuff that we saw in the previous chapter that it was shooting out of its mouth. That's its main point of attack, I suppose. We only can see like a small portion of the eel. We don't see like any of the other battle damage done to it, so we don't exactly know what went down. I mean, maybe once it gets to the manga, we'll eventually see, but this was definitely a solo act by Blue. I don't think anybody's pulling the strings. I don't think he has any kind of poison. He's definitely like an energy manipulator, as we saw before. ThighsOfZeus asks, yo, so after watching the last Q&A, I had a couple questions. My first is how Saitama knows his true strength. I'd assume with being able to pull his punches and do strength feats as accurately as he does, he must know a bit. Yeah, he definitely does know to some degree how powerful he is. I doubt he knows how truly strong he is, because how could he? I mean, like, there's only so much he could do without destroying the earth to truly figure out how powerful he is. But, like, a good way to figure this out is, like, when Boros is like, I'm going to, wipe away the surface of the planet, or whatever the translation is. Basically, he implied he was going to destroy Earth. When Saitama heard that, he was like, oh, okay, well then I guess I'm going to use a serious punch to stop this. He knew for sure that a serious punch was enough to knock away an attack capable of destroying the earth to some degree. So like I said, he does know somewhat, but like I said, he can only know so much, because where could he really practice, full out going 100%? Unless he went to space in some flashback, which we might see. I don't know. It's question 2. Will Genos get jealous of King and Saitama's closeness? Probably not. The way that I see it is that Genos just respects all of Saitama's decisions, and he also sees King, as the second to Saitama, I suppose. So he kind of just sees it as gods, like hanging out with gods, and he is lower compared to them. I don't think he would get jealous unless, that could always be a plot line that gets shoehorned in, but I think he's pretty much cool with Saitama, spending time with King and not spending time with Genos, because, the respect he has for both of them. Water Bottle asks, hi, Shonen, I got a standard versus battle today. How do you think Bang and Bomb would do against Beefcake? Hard to say. They did pretty good against Elder Centipede, right? So I assume that they would probably have a similar kind of outcome to Beefcake, who I doubt has the same kind of durability as Elder Centipede. Super hard to say, because we haven't really seen anything from him, and I don't want to put too much on his head not exploding from Saitama punching him, because I don't think it's fair. But I think Bang and Bomb could defeat Beefcake. Why not? Elder Centipede, like I said, High Dragon, and, I think they could do it. Well, Fire54 asks, after Suiko witnessed Saitama's powers and was helped by the Hero Name Victim Association, do you think that she will switch sides and join them? So it's hard to say if the Heroes Names Victim Association is like a full-blown, new organization. We've only really seen them protesting. So we're really going to have to wait for the follow-up chapters to see if Saitama and them have left the Hero Association officially and they are actually starting their own thing. But even if they did, I don't think Suiko is going to join them. She definitely wants to be a part of the Hero Association. And as for what her hero name is, I'm pretty sure it's just Suiko. You can choose, the name. Even though it seems like you can, I don't really think they're going to give her anything other than Suiko at this point, unless they reveal it later on, but I don't think she's going to get a funny, crappy name, although that could be a possibility, and she could join the Heroes Name as a Victim Association. I'm not going to say that that can't happen, but just at this point, it doesn't seem like that's where things are headed, in my opinion. When word gets out that Saitama is forming his own association, do you think Glasses will not hesitate to join him? Another thing, Glasses isn't a part of the webcomic. So we're going to have to go way into the future of the manga. Don't know what's going to happen at that point, but, I don't know where Glasses is going to be at that point in the manga. I don't know how the story is going to line up, but let's just say it perfectly lines up with what webcomic is now, and Glasses just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, hey, Saitama, I don't know if he would join the Heroes Victims Names Association. He has never really shown any disdain for his name, I suppose, but, he could. Super difficult to say at this point, honestly. So that's pretty much it for the video today, guys. Once again, I want to thank all 121 of my incredible patrons, guys. Thank you so much. I love you guys. And if you would like to be in next week's Q&A, just simply check out the $5 tier on the Patreon. That will give you access to this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe as well. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.